Hey, my loves, we're back on the pod, and we are starting this year with a brand new series. I've not done series based content on the podcast ever, so I'm really, really excited to do this. I have my trusty little phone here with my notes, and if you're watching this on video, hello. So, our series is going to be called Spiraling Upward, and this idea really just came to me while I was writing the email newsletter for my community. And if you're on that list, you will have received an email from me recently talking about my birthday and how the birthday weekend that I just had was so incredible. It was so abundant, so full of joy and happiness, and it was just everything that I could have imagined it to be. And what was amazing about this was that one good thing after another just kept happening. I was basically due for a little birthday weekend. So my partner said, I'm going to surprise you with something, just keep this day free. And on that same weekend, I had a callback interview for a job position that I was applying for. And I also had a social dinner that I was hosting for the I Am Her collective. And then I had a family kind of picnic day for my birthday as well. So there was a jam-packed weekend ahead. And I just thought, you know what, this is going to be the best time ever. For some context, ramping up to this weekend, I was manifesting my most aligned, abundant, and divinely connected era. Given that I was turning another year older, I was beginning to reflect on where I had come from in the previous year, which was a lot of shifting, shedding, healing, to then thinking about what do I want to create for myself in the new year or in the new era of my birthday and turning another year older. And I thought to myself, I would love to activate my ability to manifest, because this is something that I have not tapped into for a long time. If you've been following me from my journey from the very beginning of when I started creating content, you'll know that one of my biggest shifts was that when I manifested moving out into my own apartment and starting my business and hitting income goals and all of these crazy things that I literally drew stick figures and they became my reality. I pretended that I was in my dream car, and within a year I was driving that car. And there was just some crazy stuff that was happening. But I was reflecting in the previous few months in the lead up to my birthday about how I hadn't really tapped into this zone of manifesting or creatorship in a long time. I've been doing a lot of healing, especially post burnout, especially when I had pivoted my business. And over the past few years, I feel like I've just been in that quarter life crisis era, and I just felt that that was ending. And so I thought, you know what, let's just channel that energy. And so back to basically in the previous week, prior to that weekend or to this weekend, I was basically preparing for interviews, I was applying for jobs, I was journaling, I was envisioning, I was visualizing my highest self. I was visualizing myself literally in the specific office with a specific role, with specific little qualities that I remember literally writing the journal entries and being like, it would be crazy if I land something like this because I don't know where to find it. And then came this weekend, and I just had such an overflowing feeling of things are getting better and better and better. And I was leaning into that because I was doing a lot of nervous system regulation over the past year, like I mentioned, a lot of healing, and I was practicing how to feel abundant and to not sabotage it. And so come that weekend, and Jose, my partner, surprises me with a stunning private chartered boat where we stay on the harbor, like Sydney Harbor, with the view of the Opera House. You sleep on a private boat, they give you dinner, they leave you on the boat overnight. It's just gorgeous. And then we get to kind of sail around the coves of Sydney Harbor, and it was beautiful. And literally the following morning, I go to the interview. I smash the interview. It's amazing. I have so much fun doing it. And I just feel so aligned and connected to myself. And then I go and have that amazing dinner with I Am Her collective. And again, it was probably my favorite girl dinner that we've hosted. And we've been hosting girl dinners since June. It was so fun. Everyone was so down to earth, connected, and it felt like we had all known each other for so long. And I honestly walked away like that was such a good night, even though it was a table of strangers. So it just felt like, again, the I Am Her Collective was on its mission. It was doing its thing. And then I had the family picnic and so on. And coming from this weekend, I was doing that email reflection that I sent out to my community. And I said, isn't it funny how all throughout that whole thing, I had this tiny little voice in the back of my head, my ego or my fear, my self-doubt. It was there, but it was really, really like a tiny, tiny voice in the back of my head that was like, this is too good to be true. When is the other shoe going to drop? When is this going to turn into something really horrible? And it made me realize that my usual programming is to expect the worst. And this is the case for so many of us. We're so used to expecting the worst from our situations and circumstances that we don't know what to do when we are feeling happy and abundant. In fact, we try to distract ourselves or run away from feeling this abundance or the happiness that we feel. We try to rationalize and reason and find and nitpick little things to worry about rather than just embracing, enjoying, and expanding the abundant experience that we're having. And so that's what led to me actually deciding that this podcast series on the That's Life podcast is going to be called Spiraling Upward. I want us to all go on a journey of learning to expand the good feelings and to not run away from them. It's a reminder that we don't have to always expect the worst, and we don't have to stay programmed this way, because this is what zaps our joy in life. Like, what if together we could learn to hold our capacity or expand our capacity to hold positive emotion and to not feel so uncomfortable with that positive emotion that we want to run away from it or be busy again. And this series is a challenge for you and for me to stretch that ability to feel abundance, to be in a state of ease and allowance and joy and surrender without reverting to our default wiring, which, if you're anything like me, is the wiring of worrying, planning, thinking of things to do, doing the busy bounce, which I will explain a little bit later. But that is my challenge for all of us in this series. And I hope that we allow ourselves to feel good more of the time, and for most of our life that we are feeling good and feeling abundant, so that we are not spiraling downward or spiraling out of control, but we are spiraling upward and creating an expansive experience of life always. This is how we're going to get our joy back. This is how we're going to enjoy our lives and reclaim our peace and contentment and live a life that we are ultimately obsessed with. So, what is going to be included in this series, and what has changed on the pod? It's been so long since I talked to you guys. And in this episode, I honestly just wanted to ease into it and introduce the topic, and we'll officially start our topics next episode onward. Now, one thing that I really wanted to try on the pod was actually structuring the episodes. So I usually like to do my little ramble and then give you guys a few lessons and call it a day. But I also wanted to incorporate some of the things that have made a difference, a radical difference in my life. So within each episode, I am going to introduce journaling reflections. And this is a journaling prompt that I'm going to challenge you to do for the remainder of that week. So related to whatever topic that is, we're going to assign you a journaling reflection, and I'm going to share with you some ideas on how to do that reflection. Now, in saying that, I love journaling, and I do love guiding people through journaling prompts, because I know it can be intimidating and it can feel like you don't really know what to write if you're not used to it, but you want to get into it. And so I have actually created a resource, a digital vault called the Journaling Vault, which you can access all of the journaling prompts that I will provide on this podcast for the rest of time, all of the journaling prompts, the written kind of examples and follow-up prompts to that journaling prompt, and some examples as well. So you're going to get access to an entire vault that's going to help you journal throughout the rest of your life. Basically, this journaling vault also includes journaling prompts to do with money mindset, to do with self-love, to do with body confidence, to do with relationships, to do with your career, your purpose, to do with like just literally anything you can think of. And I am constantly adding to this vault basically every week, because I'm giving you guys new prompts and I'm also adding to that vault. So if you want to access that vault, you can, and all the details will be in the description of this episode. The other thing that I'm going to include as well is a shout out to my community. So whether you're following me on my personal brand account, you're following me on YouTube, the podcast, or you're following the I Am Her Collective and part of the community on Facebook, Instagram, wherever, if you are a part of my community in some way, I want to give you guys a shout out, and that might take different forms every single week. Sometimes I might just reference something that I'm really grateful for, something that I saw, maybe call out a special name, give you guys a shout out, a special mention on the podcast to just acknowledge where you've come from. And I just think it's so important to really celebrate and put people on a platform that we honor. And this is something that I want to do more regularly in my life. And so we're introducing it to the podcast. And the other form that it could take is actually, if you guys want to actually do a little feature, you can submit voice memos or voice recordings to the email of this podcast, and we will feature it in the podcast episode. So if you want to get on the pod, then definitely send an email through. Now, the other thing that I'm going to include is a poll question. So the amazing feature that was introduced, I think, in the recent years was a feature where you could engage the viewers or listeners of your podcast. And we're going to do this poll on Spotify in the comments and in the poll section, and also on my YouTube community page where this podcast video is housed. And you can participate in the question, because this is going to help me not just understand you guys, but also shape the content of this podcast. So I might ask a question like, what's one thing in your life that proves that you are aligned? Or what is the biggest thing that you struggle with? And really, it's an invitation for you to share and to also reflect on where you're at, as well as it allows me to get to know what content you guys want and need that could help you. Now, for the specific series Spiraling Upward, I do want to give you guys a sneak peek of what is coming so you can get excited. I love to basically plan ahead, and I'm honestly trying to get better at that this year. I have really, in January, my goal was just to work on my systems, to have a full year overview of everything in my life. And because I am, like I mentioned, in a transition in career, I wanted to give myself as much space and time to actually ease into the transition without getting too stressed or overwhelmed by a lack of systems in what I do. So I created content systems, I created a plan for our events, I created entire templates basically that I'm using to help me stay on top of everything. And so I've actually planned pretty much most of the series, except for the little extras that I want to add based on your feedback, your community engagement, and the polls, and the information I receive from you guys about what content you want. So here are some things you can expect in the podcast. We're going to look at rewiring expectations for abundance in the Spiraling Upward series. We're going to look at how our expectations create our reality. We're going to look at how to let go and let life flow, or how to surrender in order to manifest what you want. We're also, in the Spiraling Upward series, going to look at expanding your capacity to hold and receive more abundance, including breaking the cycle of playing small, including realizing what is your own upper limit and learning how to break past that. We're also going to look at how to be a creator of your own reality by living from your highest self. And I'm going to share a lot of tips on shifts that I made, mindset shifts, lifestyle shifts, give you guys recommendations of digital tools, how to use AI to help you, and just the shifts that you can make in your real life that are not going to overwhelm you or feel like they're too big or scary, but are just everyday simple things that a modern girly can do to literally elevate her life and become her best self. And then we're going to look at themes of your state of being, how to be yourself, and how to live in the overflow of your essence, who you are, and how that is even expressed. And so there's a whole lot that we're going to cover in this series. And I feel like it's just the perfect start to the year because there is a whole lot of talk about manifesting, a lot of talk about vision boards. I mean, I was part of the conversation, especially at this time of the year. Everybody's wanting to create their biggest life and step into their highest self. But what I find is after that January high kind of wears down, is we all start to doubt ourselves. We start to question, is it working? Am I doing something wrong? What can I do better? And little by little, we chip away at our confidence in our ability to achieve our vision board in life. And we stop believing that we can actually become our higher self now. We start to make conditional requirements for ourselves to meet in order to feel that we are enough, or in order to feel that we can actually achieve the life we want. And then we start to believe the lie, the narrative that it needs to be hard, and it doesn't, and it gets to be simple. So if you're joining me for this series, that is the baseline rule. It is so much more easier than what you think it is. It may require some discomfort, some new actions, practices, habits, and it might require you to break down some old belief systems. And while it's not going to be easy, it is going to be a transition that if you choose to journey with me on this podcast and in this episode, and you actually choose to participate in the community polls, you make it a ritual to tune into the podcast, to do the activities, to do the journaling prompts, and to engage in the community, then this is going to ultimately change your life. I had a thought, and I'll end the podcast today on this. I had a thought that I didn't want to start this podcast if I was just going to run it like it was something for me to just to do. I didn't want to just have another checklist item of something I needed to create and post just because it's what you do when you build a personal brand or when you want to help people. I didn't want to get back into this podcast until I knew that I was ready to really facilitate transformation. And I'm a serious believer in that. I don't care if we never meet in person or if you never talk to me or say a single word on this account. I mean, I would invite you to and definitely encourage you to, because I'd love to meet you and hear from you. But ultimately, my goal is not visibility or views. My goal is that you watch these episodes, you journey through this entire series, and that it actually changes your life, that it actually allows you every single episode to walk away feeling like there is a possibility for you to ultimately change your reality. And not only that, to feel that there is an actual actionable strategy that you can implement and that you will actually see results when you apply it. This is how much I really, really wish or intend for this podcast. That's it. I simply just want that. And so I decided that I was going to pick up this mic and this camera, if you're on video, today, despite the mental chaos in my mind about it's not the right time yet, or I don't want to start yet. I decided because in my heart of hearts, I felt that I have an entire series that is literally going to help somebody change their life. And if you're listening to this and you are tired of constantly spiraling downward and spinning out of control and your emotions overwhelming you and feeling like you are less than and beating down on yourself, if you're tired of being that person and you're ready to elevate, make sure you tune in for this for this series, and make sure you're actually implementing the steps. You don't have to do it alone. You have this entire community with you. You can come be a part of my private Facebook group. You can come join any of the communities that I have, like the I Am Her Collective, and join me on the inside so that you are not doing this on your own and you're actually accountable during this entire series. So let's see what happens on the other side of this series. And let's all make a commitment to ourselves that we are going to spiral upward and we're going to come out of this series different to how we came in. All right, my loves, I'll see you for episode 1 on the series next video or podcast. Chat to you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.